Good morning and welcome to Where the Ramp Ends. I'm Summer and I'm here with my co host,
Bryce.
Bryce Wooten. And we have our special guest today is Barbara Whinery, a friend of mine and a leader in our community. She is the parent of a son that has Down syndrome, but she has also been um, on the forefront of advocacy in our community and just she's created a foundation and a center where that employs people with disabilities, trains and employs people with disabilities. Welcome, Barbara.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the invitation, and it's good to be here.
So, Barbara, if you could tell our listeners what kind of intrigued you to start this organization and this community that hired individuals with disabilities, because our to let our listeners know, um, not a lot of people with disabilities get very many employment chances. So if you could shine a light on what kind of drew you to that idea, I think people would get a better understanding.
Well, I always tell our son Jake it's all about him. Um, he has Down syndrome, and from day one, you learn how to advocate.
Sure.
And early on in life, in elementary school and stuff, it was just there was basic things. We needed to talk clearly. We needed to learn how to read. We needed to learn simple math. We needed to learn how to be a part of a team, have friends, all that sort of thing. When he got to be 12 and we were finishing up elementary school, going into junior high, it became very evident to my husband and I that we had to have a plan for after school. And we started looking around in our community, and there was really nothing that we felt would make him a successful, productive citizen in our community. And so originally, I just got an idea that we were going to start with teaching the community um, about the fact that there are people in our community that have Down syndrome, and what is that, and what does that look like? And, come join us, be part of our village because Jake's going to need a village to be successful. And so that's kind of how it started.
And boy, did you create a village.
Yes. From what I've heard, it's amazing what you've done. And I am so inspired, because I am a public speaker and life coach myself, and I'm also on the Developmental Disabilities Council of Oklahoma. And I'm always intrigued by other self advocate stories and parent stories because we all are a community trying to make better for our community. And I think you have done just that. I really have.
Well, thank you. I mean, obviously, it's a lot bigger than me. There have been a lot of people involved, and continue to be a lot of people, and it's just grown tremendously.
Tell us a little bit about where it started. It really kind of just started with a walk, didn't it?
Right. So like I said, I wanted to raise awareness of and for individuals with Down syndrome in the community. So we actually started with a buddy walk, the National Down Syndrome Buddy Walk, and we did that for 2 years. And I had a very good friend who happened to be one of Jake's special education teachers, and she and I put this walk together. The community, as always, as they always have been, was very supportive, and I think we had like 350 people show
Wow.
up for that walk. It was just tremendous, and I remember, putting my arms around Jake and just going, "You see all these people? They're here for you. This is all about you." And that's kind of you know, where it started, well, we we raised over $20,000 that first year, and my friend and I were just kinda looking at each other, and we said, "Well, what are we gonna do with $20,000?" Because we really didn't have a plan other than to raise awareness for Down syndrome, and we did send some of the money back to the National Down Syndrome Association, but the rest of that we kept in the community, and we, started a teacher grant program for special ed teachers and gave some of that money, to them for innovative programs in their classrooms, and then we did that walk again, and then I said to my friend Shannon, "Okay, this can't just be about Down syndrome, this has to be a bigger voice, you know, we need to include everybody in the community that has developmental disabilities." And so we got some of our other friends together, some teachers, educators, people in the community with some influence, and,
Right.
4RKids was founded. So that was in, 2003.
So when did you know, that this was gonna work, and you were like, I have something, like, I want Jake's story to be the reason behind this movement. Was it just the walk, or did you did you always know that you wanted Jake's story to make an impact?
Well, I think as things evolved, it really wasn't so much about Jake's story as it was just the fact that we have to teach advocacy, and failure was not an option. Jake had to have something to do after high school, and it had to be a worthwhile job that would bring him some dignity. He needed to be a productive citizen, and I wanted him to be happy, you know? And when I say him now, I mean, it includes so many people,
Yes.
s not just him, but, of course, personally, for me, it's him, but
That just made me That just made me smile because when Summer and I started this, I mentioned to her, I said those exact words, failure is not an option when you want to succeed in this community to make a difference. Failure is not an option. So I
yeah,
appreciate you
I
saying
agree.
that.
Well, you don't always know what success is gonna look like, and what I've learned over the years is you gotta fail a lot in order to succeed,
Yes.
and that picture changes, you know, it is constantly evolving, and you have to be willing to fail in order to grow and to succeed.
And so you were at this point where you realized that you it needed to be something bigger than a walk, and you came
Yes.
together and formed For Our Kids. What was the first goal for Our Kids? What was the first
Um, let's see. Well, like I said, we wanted to make a difference in the lives of these, individuals, and we started looking at, well, at what point do you try to enter that person's life? And to me, it starts from birth, and especially once they get to school. So we had our teacher scholarship program, and we actually had a reading program in the schools for a few years. But then we also started to look beyond um, school uh, and vocations, and so the opportunity came up to buy the mini golf course in Enid, and so we bought that with the thinking that this was going to teach jobs. It was also gonna bring the community to us to see our, individuals and friends working and doing meaningful work and interacting with the public, which is also good for them because, you know, they're out and about and learning skills, employment skills, but also social skills and that sort of thing. So almost immediately, it just kind of blossomed into many different avenues. We ended up starting, baseball teams, and that's now grown into the Miracle League, which is pretty darn big for a
Well,
city in size, and so we do all kinds of sports and social things now, trying to look at it as an encompassing, um, picture, which is very similar to what people without disabilities have in their lives. They have family things, employment things, social things, all sorts of interactions.
and
What
you bring up the Miracle League. When I was a child, I was a part of the Adaptive Baseball League of Edmond, and you know, being a part of a community is so important, even though, you know, back then the disability community was so small, and I didn't even know how impactful it was until I got older. So, what you guys are doing in creating a space for kids to be social and to thrive, you guys really don't even know how impactful it is, not only for the kids, but for the parents that you guys are serving.
Yeah. No, exactly, and their siblings,
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
so that first year, about how many employees or clients did 4RKids have?
Um, I'm trying to think what year we actually, started the employment center. It wasn't immediately. It might have been, like, 2006, somewhere in there, 2006. And we started with 1, and that grew into, 5 and then more, and we were in a very small building with 50 clients at one point, which was absolutely insane when I think about that. Um, but yeah, it's
Yeah, you outgrew the building and you guys went on to build a fabulous center right next to the miniature golf course
yeah,
because you needed more space.
yes, yeah. A
I
terrible problem to have, isn't it?
I think that's probably the perfect problem you want, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about some of the things that For Our Kids, the clients and employees create with For Our Kids. You because there's so many different avenues. You have the shredding business
Uh-huh.
and the dog biscuits. And every time I turn around, it seems like For Our Kids is starting something new. What's a few of the things that they're doing there?
Well, one of the things we figured out early on is that you have to be innovative and you have to kind of offer a variety of things because a lot of individuals that are our employee clients, they have different levels of being able to work and function, use their hands, vision, speech, I mean, all kinds of things. And so we always have looked for things that we can tear apart into small pieces, small steps where everybody can find at least one of those steps to do and do well. So, dog biscuits was one of the first things that we did because there's just so many different steps there from, mixing the dough to, um, rolling the dough out to using cookie cutters and cutting out the biscuits. And we still hand make every single biscuit. But we had to create like special cutters because a lot of times people couldn't maneuver with the small dog um, biscuit shape, cutters. And so we were constantly inventing innovative tools to kind of help people do that. So our dog biscuits are still a really popular item that we make. We have um, just a big industrial kitchen in our new building, and so they have everything that they need to make a good product. Um, we make greeting cards that are woven, and again, that's the same thing. You can break that down into many, many steps. Now we're in the t-shirt screening business, and I mean that's going very well. and you just continue to weave in more and more ideas into that. We make leather patches for hats, on and on we go. And then recycling paper and cardboard, uh, which provides many jobs, but also gets some of our employees out into the community, seen in offices as they pick up paper or at other businesses where they pick up cardboard. What else? What am I forgetting? Mm. Well, we have the gift shop and the mini golf, and we have people who work in those areas. They're clerks or they clean, they maintain the mini golf course. Mm.
So, how many client employees do you have currently?
I think it's in the low 60s. It's kind of fluid. We have never gotten back to our pre-COVID numbers. We lost some of our employee clients to COVID, and others, the families just never wanted them to come back for whatever reason. Um, and then you have some that kind of, they retire. They get old and retire. And but so it's pretty fluid, but I think we'll stay around 60.
Wow.
And 4RKids is getting ready to kind of do some community outreach to younger families also, um, which you guys always have, but getting ready to do parent training
Yes.
here in Enid, which I'm really excited about. Um, it'll offer a lot of resources. So 4RKids not only serves adults with disabilities, but you guys offer resources to younger families also, which I'm
Yes.
really thankful for.
Yeah. And I think that we need to continue to do better in that area. I keep telling our executive director we need to grow these people up. We need to be there early in their lives and making sure that they have everything that they need to be successful, uh, and then offer employment, as another, um, uh, resource down the road. But there's a lot of early years where we need to make sure that they're getting the speech therapies that they need and the occupational therapies and the social interactions and the opportunities to play sports. I mean, all kinds of things. And so we want it to be uh, a a real total experience for them.
So you're saying you want to be a second family to them?
Pretty much you know, maybe village is a better word. I
Yes.
I don't know, but yeah, I just think that they need the opportunity to be as successful as they can.
Wow. I say this jokingly, but do you ever sleep? Because it sounds like you're constantly going and creating and, evolving. Do you ever get sleep? Like, this is
I do,
great.
but, probably not as much as some people. I'm a retired physician, so, there's been a lot of sleepless days and years in my life. But, yes, my brain doesn't shut off very good.
Mine doesn't either.
I'm
So
usually not doing one thing, I'm doing 2.
I'm constantly texting Summer with new ideas, or, we're constantly texting back and forth on how we can, you know, improve our podcast, and every episode gets better. And I was so excited to hear about this because I'm not in Enid. So, I'm always curious what other towns are doing and for outreach. And clearly, you guys have figured it out and continuing to evolve and continuing to serve your community, which is awesome.
Well, it's turned into such a success that I have heard about families that move to Enid just so their child can be a part of 4
Wow.
Kids.
Yes, that's happened.
Um,
Wow.
just yes. Yes, just so they can have a place of employment and have the support that 4 Kids offers. That's happened, I believe, more than once.
That
Yeah, it's a really good feeling, but "Here I go, Bryce. We're not done.
No,
Y
No,
we're not done."
Bryce, you talk about you and I texting. Barbara and I have similar text messages about, "Hey, what if we do this?" or "What if we do that?"
Yeah.
So, that's yeah, I've got more than one conversation like that going on in my life.
So what does that say about you, Summer?
That's
she
that
doesn't know
says
how to say
something.
no, is exactly the answer.
Well, no, because I
Yeah.
have these ideas in my mind too,
You
and I'm
do.
like, but I know who to partner with to
Yes.
get them done, and they may not all get done in the timeline that we want to, but um, I think they all will happen at the right time.
I think the 3 of us collaborating would be just absolutely magic. I think that there's, room for all of us to learn from each other and, our, advocacy journeys and really, you know, show up for the community because we all serve one community, even though we live in different cities or even different states for that matter. We all serve
Mhm,
one community. So, you know, I'm part of, the state organization and I'm part of the national organization. And, I tell people as advocates, it's our job to make sure that the community as a whole knows that there are people that want to get their hands dirty and be a part of the solution and bridge the gap with the problem.
agreed. I think maybe there's a trip to Enid in your future, Bryce.
I would love very much, very much.
Um, Barbara was one of the first people, well, actually, the first parent that I sat down with face to face and had a conversation. I think Julia was little, and I was kinda, like, reaching out to find other families that had children with disabilities, and Barbara said, "Come tour for our kids," and we sat down and had a conversation, and what you told me that day about, Jake's IEPs, I take that into every IEP meeting with me, and I have that I probably think about it every day, but you said, um, you made Jake's ability to read and his speech priority with his
Mhm.
Yes.
school, and I I have taken that, like, to heart, like, I really was like, "Okay, Julia's ability to read and her ability to speak well is going to be top priority for me."
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because if you can't communicate, you're not safe.
Yes. Yes.
You can't tell people what you need, what
Yes.
you like, what you don't. It's just so important, and it it is so undervalued by the school system, I think. I mean, and I understand it's not cheap, but my goodness,
No, and
it's so
you bring up the school system, and that's a very good point, Barbara. I think that the school speech pathology programs are good, but you only get a kid for an hour. They need more than an hour to develop those skills. You almost need a place like 4 Kids that really takes the time to develop that relationship with the child and really hone in on what skills they need.
yeah, have often wished that we had a full-time speech pathologist. Maybe we'll get there someday, someone.
Well,
From what I understand, there is a huge, deficit in speech pathologists in Oklahoma. This and it all has to do with how many are admitted to the school and how
Uh-huh.
many graduate. I believe it's only, like, 80 graduate are accepted into only 80 are accepted, and I have to go back and I should have checked this. I didn't know this would come up today, but I believe only 80 are accepted into speech pathology school every year, And then many of those that graduate are actually leaving the state. So that's why one reason why there's such a it's so hard to get our kids the speech that they need.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And the um I don't know what the answer is to that except having conversations, and I don't even know who you would have a conversation with because I don't think it's legislation. I think it's the schools that are teaching speech pathology.
Well, obviously, we're not doing enough, um, to get people to stay if that's what the problem is. It's like the same thing practicing medicine, most people don't want to go to rural areas, they wanna stay in urban areas, and, you know, you have to pay a whole lot more to get people to come
Right.
to rural America.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. So maybe there is a legislation issue there. Or
Maybe there's an option to pay for somebody's schooling and get them to sign a contract to stay X number of years.
yeah. I'm always really impressed with Jake anytime I have any interaction with him. His speech is so very clear. And the first
Yeah.
time that I was telling Bryce about this, and so I'm gonna humble myself publicly right now. The first the first interaction I had with Jake, I kinda made it like I we went to Travis's birthday party,
Mhm.
and several of the guys were there, and we were kinda just walking along with them as they were playing miniature golf, and Jake was doing so well. And I'm just kind of, like, in my ignorance, I'm like, "Jake, you're such a good miniature you're so good at this. Do you play every day?" And he just kinda looked at me and he's like, "No, I work." And he was like, "I have a job."
Yeah.
And he said, "And on weekends, I do my laundry and I take care of my" like, I'm an adult summer, you know? Um, so he's very, very independent. His speech is great. He's just a joy to be around, and, so I know that all the things that you fought for, you accomplished with him. He's a delightful human being.
Yeah, I'm so happy with his speech too, because I think that it has really allowed him to be the person that he is, you know? He has no trouble being understood. I can remember my husband and I talking about, "Do you think he'll ever speak?" Because it was all just,
Right.
doing
Sure.
sign language and grunts and groans and stuff, and now sometimes we look at each other and go, "Do you think he'll ever shut up?" Oh my gosh.
That
Do
that's amazing that he has, the skills to be an asset in the community because you wanted that for him and you did everything that you could to achieve that. So, I mean, that's every parent's dream, not only for parents that have a child with special healthcare needs, but that's every parent's dream for every child is to, achieve something that you asked of them. So honestly, that's a testament that if you put in the work, you can do it.
Yeah. Well, you have to give them the tools, but at some point too, they have to step up and do the work, and,
Yes.
um, Jake does have a job. He works.
um, would you tell the story about the phone book?
Oh my gosh. In
I
junior high,
love that
what
story. Do what?
his junior high story, his birthday party,
Yes.
that one.
I love that story.
So I think he was in 7th grade, and, well, let me back up a minute because Jake Jake had some really cool, awesome, um, powers, and one of them was noticing small details in cars where he could compare people's cars to each other and point out details. He was a very good speller, not so much like writing it down, although he could write down spelling words, but just seeing them in his head, and
Wow.
he would win spelling bees in his classroom, and it's just a regular classroom. Um, but I didn't realize one of his other special qualities, until he was in 7th grade, and my husband and I were getting stopped in the grocery store, and they were asking us about the birthday sleepover that their child had been invited to, and we're just going, "There's no birthday sleepover," and they're going, "Oh, yeah, everybody's talking about it, all the kids are invited," and we're just going, "What?" And we go home, and we're asking Jake, and yes, he had called every parent or child in his 7th grade class, so that was close to 80 people. He had invited them all to his house for the weekend, and he was going to have a birthday sleepover.
Oh my.
And we were just going, "Jake, no, I mean, no, we could have a party, but there's no sleepovers in 7th grade, and the boys and girls together, that many, no, it's not gonna happen." And I said, "How did you get their numbers?" And as soon as I said that, I knew that we had a book from the school that listed all the parents' phone numbers so you can call and talk to them. So I told him, "You need to go get that book and give it to me." And so he did. He went and got it and brought it back and handed it to me, and he starts to walk away, and he turns around and looks at me, and he said, "Mom, you know that's not gonna help, right?" And I said, "Why? I just took the book with the phone
Oh,
numbers. Do you have another book?" And he said, "No." And I said, "So why isn't it gonna help?" And he just pointed to his head, and he had all the numbers memorized. He had memorized every single number. Oh my gosh, it just blew
That
me away.
that blows me away.
that's
I would
wild.
I don't know when the last time was that I memorized a phone number,
Oh, yeah, me neither.
but to be able to memorize that many is
Yeah,
just amazing.
yeah.
Well, 4RKids puts on, several different fundraisers every year, and they're getting ready to do, um, diamonds denim and diamonds
Uh-huh.
coming up in
Gala,
a
yeah.
the ga the gala. So, do you wanna tell us a little bit about that? We can invite people to
Sure.
purchase
I think
tickets.
there's a few tickets left, to purchase, so that is the last Saturday in February, and I don't know what that date is. What is that date?
February
I should do it.
28th.
February 28th, it's at the Oakwood Country Club in Enid, and this is probably our 4th one, I'm thinking. Um, it's sponsored by, Mead Jewelers, and they donate a diamond every year. This year, it's a 3-carat diamond. I'm just going, "Woo, that's a big stone." And so when you buy a ticket, you get a meal, you get a chance to win the diamond, and, there's a live auction, and music and dancing and alcohol if you want it, and just a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's our fancy thing that we do
And then
every
you
year.
also do a walk every year, and that's been
Mhm.
moved to the spring.
Yeah, it'll probably be in June again, I would imagine. Yeah.
And, what other events and fundraisers
We
that
have the turkey trot on Thanksgiving morning every year. It's a 5K and 1-mile run, or you can walk the 1 mile. And we usually have about 300 runners every year come out and do that, which just always amazes me that so many people will get up that early on Thanksgiving morning, but they do, and, you know, kudos to them. It's a good event for us. Those are our 3 big ones, and then we have smaller ones scattered through the year.
Bryce 4RKids is the organization that does the, sensory friendly Santa
Wow,
and
okay, yes,
since
I've seen videos on Summer's Facebook page. That just impresses me so much because when I was growing up, I had several classmates that were on the autism spectrum, and growing up, we didn't have anything like that. And
Yeah.
to see, you know, stuff like that, in the community now, it just makes me smile because it's almost like the lives of individuals with disabilities are getting better with time.
Oh, I agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a really amazing event because it just gives kids that crowd-free, sensory-free time
Yes.
with Santa Claus. They get to experience it on their own terms, and
Yes.
this year, for our kids was this the first year for the sensory-friendly, trick or treat?
No, we've done that for several years. I'm gonna say it's either the 3rd or the 4th year that we've done that,
Okay.
and then we
So
do a Easter egg hunt too.
yeah, so that was really amazing. Julia did really well, and because they had somebody at each miniature golf at each hole,
Wow.
and they had it set up so they would kind of hold kids back, so each child got to go trick or treat, without a rush of kids around them.
That
Um,
is so I the ingenuity behind that is just it makes me smile because it's like you really take the time to individualize everybody's experience, and that's hard to do. Really, it is.
yeah, it's really ingenious. I've had a lot of people whenever I posted the sensory friendly Santa, they're like, "I wish we had this in our area," and I'm like, "Go initiate it. Go do
Right.
this." Not just for your kid, but for the other kids too,
Mhm.
because it really is an amazing
I would
experience.
love to see, some of the 4 kids ideas expanded into not just Enid, but Oklahoma City could learn from them. Tulsa could learn from them. I mean, there's so many cities that could take what 4 kids is doing and implement it. And I swear, I think Barbara, you have something here. I think it could really go statewide. Really, I do.
Okay, summer, get to work.
Well, I will say I agree with Bryce. I'm always amazed whenever I talk to somebody that doesn't know about 4RKids, and I'm just like, you need to go see what they're doing because it's it's more than one conversation can cover, and that's one reason why I wanted to have you on this podcast is so that others can hear what 4RKids is doing and maybe it'll spark some ideas because it all just started with a mom that was looking for purpose for her son. And that's all, that's something that's on a lot of our minds as parents
Right,
is what what's what happens after graduation.
right.
And so just the fact that you saw that need and you met it not just for Jake, but Um, currently you have 60 plus, but then all the past employees also, client employees, just amazes me.
And I've talked to you for 40 minutes and I'm already like, What can we do? Not only from where the ramp in standpoint, but like my own of like, how can I get involved, and share my own personal self advocacy journey and be a part of this wonderful array of change that you're doing? Because I mean, people need to know about this. People need to immerse themselves in this is because that's how we get change.
Well, I think we put our heads together and we figure it out.
Absolutely. I'm in. Absolutely.
And I'll just say for anybody listening today that wants to go support For Our Kids, we will have a link in the podcast and also our social media links. We'll have a link to the For Our Kids social media and website, and you can make purchases online. Am I right, Barbara?
Yes.
You can still
Uh-huh.
make purchases. Can you do the greeting cards online?
I'm not sure if they're online or not, but, I mean, if they're not, then they can just send us a message or talk to us, call and visit with us about it. The greeting cards are just so cool.
The greeting cards are really amazing. They're really each one is a work of art, and they're really awesome. But then you also have several other things you can purchase. So if somebody wants to support For Our Kids just by going and making a purchase, you guys have some really awesome, amazing items.
I
So
think so too. And the store is always just so cute with all kinds of all kinds of items and stuff, and
yeah.
yeah.
And you can also I also believe there's a link there too, you can make a donation to For Our
Yeah.
Kids. I'm just going to, let you 2 kinda give your final thoughts.
Oh,
Oh,
my final thought would be it's similar to what I've said in previous episodes. Barbara, if you could have one thing of your what do you want your legacy to be? You know, when it's all said and done, what do you want Barbara Winnery's legacy to be? And what do you want to be remembered for?
um, I think, like, most of all, I would want people to think, um, she was, an advocate for people who couldn't necessarily speak for themselves, but that also, um, I was kind.
I love that.
I don't know what else you would want to be remembered for.
I love
I mean,
that. I also say being an advocate for those who can't speak or maybe not know how to speak yet, but that's our job as advocates to give them the power of their own
avoid
voice.
Well, Barbara, I really appreciate you being a guest with us today, and I appreciate your friendship, just working alongside you, and Bryce, I will let you close us out.
For where the ramp ends, I'm Bryce,
I'm Summer.
and this is where the ramp ends and your journey begins. Till next time, bye bye.